slide first because it's actually a little exciting. So I was actually in New York for new restaurant openings. There's a lot of social media. We are currently still on reservation only just because of the demand is really high. I was there 3 months to help opening and train all the back of house staff. And it's actually, if you ever been to a California store for Din Tai Fung, the design is different. It's actually really Broadway style. So if you had the chance, I would encourage you to visit or just take a look inside. It's actually one of the most invested location and the largest Din Tai Fung in the world. So far we have 167 locations throughout internationally, and this is the largest one. Little background information, we already has 400 staff just for the locations, where our goal is to hire up to 500 to fulfill the Manhattan location. And then it should be on the right. It's actually was challenging, but it was really fun. That I just want to share. But as Caroline asked me to share the fun experience in Cal Poly, I don't have pictures because I'm always involved.
Oh no.
I'm always involved in activities, be part of the participants, so I don't have too much pictures. Maybe you can find on websites here and there, but we do a lot of events, field trips. I went to a couple of field trips to the wineries. That was really fun. So if you have the chance, you should go with Marchie's. I took her wine class as well as her TA for wine class. But going down to what I do. So I just want to share my experience, especially I'll Be Next series. It's inspiring all the college students to where you want to go after you graduate. And I want to share my personal experience is I was actually starting as a server before I start college back in 2013. Back then I was still in PCC for my units, so I can transfer. Sorry. So I can transfer. So 2013, it's when I started as a server. And as you can see, I wear a chef coat now. So it's actually two different environments, front of house versus back of house, which I will share in a little bit. But I learned a lot for front of house, and that's something I really enjoy, seeing guest interactions, guest satisfactories. And of course, we'll have to deal with guest recoveries. That's another word, guest incidents. Whenever guests are complaints, we have food quality issues, wait times, turnovers, it just lost items, and so forth. There's so much things you will see in restaurants' life. But how I resolve it and see the smile on our guest face, that's how I feel, oh, I'm fulfilled my day. So that's something I really enjoyed back then as a server, as a busser, and then I became a manager. So 2013, I started as an hourly, and I had the opportunity because the owner of Din Tai Fung actually asked me to help open the Glendale location. That was when we opened. So we originally, we'll open in Americana, and then I actually have a boba background. So prior to 2013, Din Tai Fung don't have a boba program. But I actually built a boba program while I was an hourly. So that's something new. Like I encourage you to try if you have the chance, you have the opportunity, propose to your manager, to your supervisor. Maybe you'll pass on to the ownership so you can actually involve. Something I strongly encourage is take the opportunity, all the opportunity you can have, so you can actually learn from the experience. Prior to that, I have no experience. Of course, I work at a boba shop, but like making a brand new recipe, talking to all the vendor relationships, that's new to me. So I was actually making calls to different vendors, getting samples, and then setting out recipes. So that all happened in 2013, my first 6 months at Din Tai Fung. And then I continue to grow to the server. So we start as front of house support as the entry-level job, and then you get promoted to servers and then lead servers. That's where I do all my jobs until I graduate 2018, as I stated there. I graduated 2018, and then immediately, like the Monday after my graduation, my owner's like, you started as a manager. So that's, yeah, they really asked me to become manager while I was working there as a server lead. They just say, if you have the opportunity, if you want to do part-time, we'll do the accommodation. So you can go to school Monday to Friday, come back like working half days or just work weekends, because they actually like enjoy like how I run the restaurants. And then that's 2017 to 2018. And I also listed, I actually TA for Miss Sherry, Chef Ernie, he's retired, and Margie's. So that's a lot of fabulous experience happened during those 2 years, 2017, 2018. That's my busiest work and schools and life, because I took 12 units, I TA for 3 classes, and I do Din Tai Fung full-time job. So it was a little crazy. So if you want to do it, there's always, you can always do it. In other words, like it's either if you're willing or you're not. And 2019 is I got offered as a general manager for the location I was running. That requires a lot more jobs. So I was a front of house manager, become a general managers. And something I do want to share is the location I run was the original location. I'm not sure if everyone's been there before, since everyone's young here. But I actually closed down a location during COVID, 2020. So it's no longer there. But that's our first location in USA. But as a general manager of a smaller store compared to everything else, we have 16 stores now, it's not easy. So I actually have to run both front and back of house. That's why I'm where I am today, because I have to force myself to learn all back of house operation, not only limited to front of house, but also start monitoring, managing back of house, inventory control, full cost. That's what I do 2019. And at the year 2020, because of my experience, I was actually nominated for a regional back of house manager. And then I got promoted. So that's when 2020 and 2022 is when I was a regional back of house manager, where I learned everything from scratch. Since all my experience is front of house, but 2020 during COVID, it's the turning, or it's a milestone for myself, transition fully to back of house, where I start learning how to cook from scratch, because as everyone knows, Archaea doesn't teach you Chinese cooking. I learned American cooking. To American cuisine, steaks, salad, salmons, but making dumplings, making xiaolong baos is something brand new. But as a regional back of house, and especially my teaching style and my management style is learn by example or teach by example. I also learn by example because I will go ask all my leads in the kitchen to see, oh, is there any techniques you can show me? And then I visit all the locations. That's how I gain my knowledge. So it's same for all industries, like learn from experience. That's why we actually, for Din Tai Fung, we actually start hiring a lot external. We have our director from different companies, VP from different companies, and we also have an SVP from supply chain that's also from different companies. So we actually gather a lot of talents from different fields to help us build our own structure. And then, as you can see, I actually do a lot of, so for corporate chef for Din Tai Fung, which I will share on my last slides, what I do daily. But I recently take a lot of PR events, doing interviews, as you can see. Those are in Portland and Seattle. I also do a couple ones in Las Vegas, and there's a couple ones in LA too. So that's something I start doing a lot for, so you can see me in social medias or Capole websites. Yeah, but that's basically what I do mostly. And then this is my day-to-day operation in case you want to know what director of culinary do, because different restaurants actually categorize their corporate chef different, because I was having the honor to meet a corporate chef from Panda Express, but they're on their marketing direct. So they do a lot of PR events. They also do R&D, but for Panda, they actually have a food science department. They do R&Ds, and then corporate chef just approves it. But for me, I actually do R&Ds, PRs, as well as store audit for all culinary related. So start with the quality enhancements. It's regular visit to the store. As I mentioned, I do food audits. So I do SOP audits. So I will need to ensure all the SOP has been followed. So when you go to the Din Tai Fung in Arcadia versus New York versus Seattle, everything will taste the same or similar. And then craftsmanship is something I also do that's new to me, although you learn a little bit in RKR. But developing, refine, and implement cooking procedures. You have to create your own menus for RKR, or Chef Cherie will help you create one. But that's something I actually do. I revamped the whole program. As we go back to 2013, just want to let everyone know, for us, our establishment, we have no SOP, no written SOPs. Our SOPs slowly developed at the year 2017, 2018. That's when we slowly start. And then for the past 2 years, we actually have an L&D department, and we're actually build more. So prior to that, everything is just verbal. It's like I telling someone, do this, do that. And then we run for the past 20 years. So next 2025 is actually our 25th year anniversaries. So it's pretty amazing to me. Like when I was a manager, I was like, wow, everything is just a cultural teach. You go to a person, you tell them, you need to do this, and then the restaurant runs as busy as now. So that's something I was amazed. And so I slowly start to cook, especially our goal is to open 3 locations every year starting now. So I need to ensure I have a solid SOPs. So all the back of house can actually follow the SOPs and they can make the same food. Rather than for me to go to every single location and teach, and it's like, oh, this is wrong. And you have to do this. Your flame is too high, and so forth. So that's something I am building right now. And then we also do a lot of certifications. Like we started with the WOC certifications past 2 months. So I actually gathered all California WOC managers or training managers, hotline training managers into one location. And I personally watch them cook. After they cook all the dishes, I certify them to ensure they're qualified. And I did the same thing. I flew up to Seattle and did the same sessions to ensure everyone's on the same page. So that's just how important we want to keep the consistencies by certifying them to ensure they follow the same process. Collaborations, that is something also a lot for your role. If you're not in a developing company, maybe this is something, it will be less. But for me, I actually, I don't remember I shared, but it's my 11th year in Din Tai Fung, so I know a lot. And then I do help like a liaison for all the corporate to ops, corporate department to departments. So I communicate with a lot of departments. And a couple of them I listed here is FSQA. That's something we built this year to ensure all the food safety and quality assurance are up to standard. And then marketing, as you see, I am on TV pretty frequent. And then supply chain is I need to ensure all the products are the highest quality and they have a sustainable and as well as consistent supplies. So that's I do day-to-day. I talk to them a lot to ensure everything's being followed. And then lastly is authenticity. I just want to touch a little bit, but be a cultural ambassador to ensure authenticity and recipes. Recipes, quality, ingredients, and flavors, similar to what I communicate and work a lot with the corporate team. This is something I focused in terms of bring the Taiwanese flavor to US to ensure everything is still maintain its cultural, authentic flavors. So people enjoy when people enjoying our dishes, they can actually like, oh, this is a Taiwanese food. This is what I was expecting when I visit Taiwan. Any questions?
Yes, we'll do the questions after Audrey. That's okay. Thank you. Been a busy 10 years for you people.
Hi, everybody. My name is Audrey, class of 2020, and I am the event sales manager for Eureka Restaurant Group. Has anybody been to Eureka? Do we know? Okay. People are familiar. So our closest location is actually the one in Claremont over here. And then right across the way in that same area, we also have La Popular, which is a Mexico City-inspired cuisine restaurant. So that weird, but you know what I mean. And that is also one of my locations, along with 14 others. And then I do have a third brand that I'll tell you all a little bit more about at the end. But wanted to start by telling you all about my days at Collins. So I was a winter transfer student from Citrus College. I came in, wasn't entirely sure where I wanted to go with my degree, but I was already working at Eureka actually as a server. And I was like, well, you know, maybe I'll go into restaurant management and that's what I'll do. And then went to a transfer luncheon my first week here with Carolina and the ambassadors and was like, wow, I have to get involved. I have to make the most out of my college career. So I applied to be an ambassador. I went on the Hospitality Management Council. And then for my last year, I was the president of the Hospitality Management Council. So right here, you can see me and your dean on KTLA 5 promoting Uncorked. And then a couple shots of Uncorked here as well. The middle is actually our group project. I forget which 400 level class does the case study, but I did it on Eureka, of course. So I guess, I don't know, I played the cards out for me to end up back there at some point. And then, of course, 2020, our year ended virtually, and that was our transitional meeting, my final meeting as the president here. But while I was here at the career fair in 2019, I actually met another alum who was also an ambassador and on the council at the career fair. She was working at the Hollywood Bowl, and she came up to me and was like, what are you doing this summer? Come work for me. And she knew me from being involved on campus, and I have wanted to try something new. So I went and was the catering operations coordinator at the Hollywood Bowl for Sodexo Live. Sodexo Live is a food and beverage company that has multiple venues across the US and internationally. The Hollywood Bowl is one of the closest ones here. They also have the Pasadena Convention Center, and then multiple other stadiums and all those kinds of things. So during the season, which was from about like mid-April to early November, I was at the Hollywood Bowl. At every single show, almost every single day. But it was my first time doing catering and events, so I just wanted to get in there, learn as much as I possibly could, and learn everything that I could about this because it was brand new and it was exciting. And I love music, so I was like, you know, it'll be fun. While I was there, my responsibilities included scheduling, staffing. I also expedited all the foods to our multiple locations. What we were responsible for was actually feeding the artists, feeding the stage crews, doing any kind of artist parties, and then we did also have private companies parties booked throughout the stadium, or sorry, throughout the venue. So we would do all of those, and we were a team of 2 with, of course, staff. So it was a lot, but it was really rewarding, and I got to learn a lot there and kind of stay there. On the right, you'll see one of my favorite events. So after the pandemic, once we reopened, I came back as a catering sales manager, and the event right there with the pink couches is actually the Hollywood Bowl's 100-year anniversary on the stage. So it was really, really fun. I got to work with a lot of local farmers, actually, so they could showcase their products. 2 of our restaurant partners were Chef Suzanne Goen and Carolyn Stein. Yeah, and they were there. They were very involved, and we got to showcase everything that they do. They have great restaurants in Los Angeles. AOC is one of their big ones, if you're familiar with them. They do a really good restaurant series, I think on Sundays, up at the hotel at the Proper in downtown LA, where they work with different chefs and they showcase their cookbooks and they cook directly from the book. So 2 incredibly talented women and great women to look up to. And we got to work with them on a day-to-day, and it was really great. But ultimately, I was looking for something that was year-round. This job was great because it taught me everything that I needed to know about events quickly. And then in the off season, to offset our salaries, they would send us out to different venues. So in the off season, I got to go to Lucas Oil Stadium to do the college football championships, the Ronald Reagan Library. I did all their holiday parties through December, and just got to experience a lot of different places, and then also learn as much from those places as I could. I was still relatively new to catering and events, so it was really interesting to see the way that different locations operated, and especially the Hollywood Bowl's a 100-year-old building, so it looks very different than your average banquet hall, where you have true catering staff that know how to do a plated dinner. So the last photo over there is actually my first plated dinner, also on the stage. And it was a huge learning experience. Thankfully, I had an incredible team around me that really helped me and kind of got me all together. And then there's Margie, enjoying an afternoon at the pool. From there, as I mentioned, I wanted to go somewhere that was year-round. I wanted somewhere bigger, and thankfully, my previous boss now worked at SoFi. This is still the same alum that I met at the career fair. And she called me and said, hey, there's an opening. What are you doing? And I was like, great, let's go. So I applied and was able to come in, and it was an incredible experience. The stadium itself has two entities. So you had Hollywood Park and SoFi Stadium, and they book the concerts, they do the games, all of that. And then the open calendar days with nothing on went to Legends Hospitality to book private parties, to do tours, to do whatever that they could. So my responsibilities included for game day operations, I did all of the catering for basically everybody that worked there on the day of. It included the players, the team, staff, media, and also the stadium staff, our staff, everybody that was there. So we put together all those BEOs, handled all the BEO meetings with our various departments, and made sure that everyone was good to go when we handed it off to operations and they executed it on the day of. And then on Sundays, I would run around with my cell phone waiting for something to go wrong, so I knew who to call, like, hi, I need 20 more chicken tenders. And then sometimes, running and grabbing it as it goes. But on non-stadium event days was when we got to do the private parties, which was a lot of fun because every single one was different. I'd done a million bat and bar mitzvahs, also done, the middle picture is actually, I don't know if there's any Bravo fans, but we did the white party for the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. It's near and dear to my heart, so it was really exciting. We got to meet a lot, we got to meet a lot of the characters from the show, well, they're people, the people from the show. And it was also super cool, smack dab in the middle of the field. They completely transformed it. And it was really exciting to see how a planner can come in, look at an empty football field and turn it into something completely different. Learned how to be creative, learned how to be very flexible, because especially when you're dealing with film and live entertainment, things change at the drop of a hat. And you just have to know, okay, this happened, who can I call? And really was the liaison in between the planner and all the different departments in the stadium, everything from the lighting to the parking to security to housekeeping, all the things that you can think of. So got to experience all of that there and was really just looking for a way to continue my career growth. So Legends Hospitality has recently merged with ASM Global, which means that it's a bigger, badder company now. They have a lot more venues. And unfortunately, I just wanted to do something different and get a change of pace for my own life, because stadium life is very hectic, as you can imagine, with all the different things going on. And so I decided to look for a new opportunity. And thankfully, Eureka came along, my old company. A job opportunity came up for an event sales manager, and I am the first one for the company. And now I am developing the event sales program from the ground up, building all the event menus across the 3 brands. We have Eureka, which is classic American fare, craft beer, whiskeys, very laid back, very casual. And then in the middle is the newer one, La Popular. It's a CDMX-inspired cuisine, a lot of tacos, enchiladas, but the inside of the restaurant is really, really beautiful. They've gone very modern with the decor. And we have 2 locations in California. One is in Porter Ranch, and then the other one is here. Both of those are mine. Our newest is the Amalfi Llama, which is an Italian steakhouse with Patagonian influences. So my job is to navigate all 3 brands and make sure that our menus and our marketing is in line with the 3 brands, because they are so different. It's important to make sure that our messaging is all the same, that all the materials look the same for each brand, as you can see 3 different logos on the bottom, and also so that people know that we host events, that you can come out, you can book our patio for an event, you can come out, you can book the whole restaurant if you'd like, or a section, we'll do a prefix menu, we'll do whatever you need. This has also been a really big learning experience for me, because as you can see, I am used to larger scale events. So when I was at SoFi Stadium, we were doing everything from 50 to 4,000 people for our private events. And now my days are looking more like 25 to like 75 and 100. But there's other things that come into play, We still have reservations when we have these private parties. How do we manage that from an operational standpoint? How do we make sure that we're accounting for those tables being out? How is our kitchen prepping to make sure that they are good for all the events plus the actual restaurant? And kind of just managing that as we go along. It has been, I think, I started in June. It's been about 5 months now. Our programs are actually pretty up to date at this point. We are fine-tuning everything, and we will be fully live before the end of this month. So it's been really exciting to get to kind of bring something from the ground up, especially in a company that is still, as James mentioned, is expanding. So we are opening new restaurants. We're actually opening a pickleball experience, kind of like Topgolf. It's called Electric Pickle. That'll be opening next year. And the newest, or the closest location to here is in Rancho Cucamonga. But yeah, it's exciting to be part of a company that is constantly developing. You know, they saw that there was a need for an events person because the management teams themselves at the restaurants are pretty spread thin and usually don't have the time to go back and forth with a client about what kind of menus they're going to see on the table. So those are the things that I am in charge of doing, along with meeting with clients, inviting clients to the restaurants, hosting them for lunch, and creating partnerships with local hotels, other event venues, and networking as much as possible. Yeah, I think that's all I have.
Thank you. Anybody have a question right away? Okay.
Hello, for James.
Yes.
How much do you think your education at college contributed to your career advancement, given you like you've worked there for a while, and do you feel you would have reached the same level at this type of without formal education, or do you think there was a key factor to career advancement?
Can I ask a follow-up question? So are you focused on, is this question focusing on front of house or back of house? Yeah, because I was just going to say for front of house, a lot of guest interactions you can learn by experience. But for back of house, especially if you're targeting a specific department like director of kitchen operation, director of supply chain, director of culinary, as me, then RKR class, I think it's essential. Also, Mama Bell's class, menu analysis. Yeah, so I think I took Leslie. Yeah, but those will help you understand the concept. You need to break everything down to scratch and rebuild. So education, it is required. It will help you. Or if you are really book smart, you can Google it, self-learn. That also works. But Collins actually helps me a lot.
So this is for both of you, since you guys manage a lot of locations for your respective brands. I feel like I notice a lot of times that, especially nowadays with companies that start off, once they pass a third location, 80% of quality within that company tends to significantly tank. And so you guys managing so many more than like 3 locations for your brand, what are effective measures that you take as in management to ensure the quality remains consistent throughout your respective locations? Because I feel like what happens is a lot of places start to expand before they actually focus on how to keep the quality within that expansion. So I guess I'm just asking, what are effective tactics to ensure that?
I'll speak from a front of house perspective. So we do secret shops. I don't know if you have heard about those or learned about them, but we have 3 a month. A secret diner will come in, they'll sit at the bar, they'll order from the bartender, and they're taking notes the whole time, taking pictures the whole time. They'll sit with their server, and then we get a report after that basically gives us a grade. And that it's tied to the server, it's tied to the bartender. We know exactly what we missed and where we can improve, and we keep that going. So it's 3 times a month, and it's been really helpful. We also have We're constantly quality checking our beverages. So we'll do a random beverage every day for everyone to try it so they know what they're serving. The same with the menus. And I know we do weekly meetings as well where our chefs are sending photos periodically throughout the week of different menu items to make sure that it looks the same throughout.
For us, similar to Audrey mentioned, we do have Secret Shopper twice a month, as well as we have something for all the corporate staff or all corporate managers. We have something called the Typhoon Experience Reimbursement. So we get like certain stipends every month. So all the corporate people will go to different locations to dine in, and then they will acknowledge me immediately if there's something wrong. And then for the store level, we do a lot of checklists. We have tastings. There's not limits, but there's a minimum times all the kitchen manager need to sample all the food like 3 times throughout the day. So that's something I actually keep them in the loop, as well as temperature control, hot holdings, everything. We have a checklist to ensure everything is completed. So we have a corporate auditors as well as culinary teams are auditing. Everything is being transferred to corporate so we can actually review. So that's how we can ensure the consistencies, procedures are being followed. That is something, a brand new project I'm working on. It's a checklist program that teach everything step by steps. So we can actually ensure, for example, you're making a dumpling, step 1 to 0. They have to check off while they're making, so they're not missing any steps.
Okay.
I'm walking to your next question.
Okay. Hi, Christina. I was just wondering, what's the first step that you guys really help take from switching to being like a server to actually in the restaurant industry of back of house and like moving up?
Go ahead. So for me, I showed interest. I talked to management. I said, hey, I'm a hospitality student. You know, I want to be able to grow with this company. Is there like an hourly manager job I can do? Is there something else that I can do besides just my regular roles? And they were really receptive to that. So that is kind of what got me there.
Similar, I have to say. I think we're working on the same structures, but for us, we actually have a couple routes. For all the Din Tai Fung manager, when we sign our job descriptions, we actually approved. Well, we're not approved. We actually sign up for open door policy. So we need to be available when the staff or any employees wants to talk to the manager. So that's something we sign up for. So that would be the session whenever an hourly staff or leads, servers, or anyone from the lead departments want to talk about their career growth, we'll be there for them. As well as for us, we have internal promotions. So we have QR code on our employee communication board. Every time there's openings, we will be open to ensure QR code are posted. Anyone can apply. So once you apply, manager they will touch base with you to see what are your interests, or they will just schedule you for an interview. As well as open to public for our Din Tai Fung website on the career page. Everything is open. So that's something we will refer our employees or anyone who is interested for applying.
How you doing?
Hi.
What advice would you give to someone who is first year Collins going into their second year? What would you advise them to do to pursue in the restaurant business, whether it's a class, whether it's getting involved in a certain type of restaurant or something? What would your advice be to someone like me who's coming in kind of fresh to this and kind of a little lost?
May I ask a follow-up? Is your goal to become a manager, a GM, or what are your goals?
I also actually open a restaurant, but with experience with going through.
Then my advice for either front or back of house, or if you have the opportunity to do both, a lot of like the smaller scale mom and pop restaurants, you have to do both. Where I think that's where I learned. Similar to what I share about the original location we have, I have to run both sectors as well, all the corporate communications. That would be the best spot you can learn if you want to open your own restaurants. But other than that, I think I will strongly advise you start as an entry-level job and go your way up so you can learn all the stage. Something I, as an hourly staff, faced before, it's manager don't understand the employees. Of course, from a manager perspective, where everyone's learning management, you need to know to find a balance that satisfies the hourly request as well as your company objective. You need to find a balance to ensure you are happy on both ends, rather than if you're a manager who only voice up for employee opportunity, where the boss, the stockholders might have a different opinions. So that's something I will strongly suggest. If you learn from scratch and all the way up, then you understand every stage. Then you have a better perception on making decisions.
Thank you.
I mean, it's very much of the same. Definitely just start going out there. If there's a restaurant that you already like, see if they're hiring. Get a job as a host or a busser or a server assistant, whatever they have, and then just learn as much as you can.
Hi, my name is Michelle. Thank you both for coming. I have a question for both of you. So based on both your presentations, you guys have come a long way in your careers and you have been in charge of major events and major positions in your lives. And as someone who's a junior in their education right now I have a question about like, how do you deal with like self-doubt when it comes to roles like this, like when you feel like you might not know certain things in a position that might come along the way in your career? How do you deal with that and like self-sabotage, like when it comes to those positions?
Yeah, I felt exactly that same. I'm a big imposter syndrome person, and I was throughout my entire college career. Carolina's nodding and laughing because the amount of times I ended up in her office saying, "Why me? I don't deserve this." So I dealt with that a lot, and then what ended up happening was I started realizing that the opportunities that are coming to me are not coming to me because I'm lucky. They're coming to me because I've earned them. Because maybe I didn't put in the work that I think I had to do, but I did put in the work. So I think it just comes from this belief inside of yourself of the work that I'm doing is enough. And as long as your vision and your goal is clear and you keep working toward it every day, the opportunities will follow.
And to add to Audrey, I think another thing is you need to find your team. It doesn't matter how big the scale, unless you're working as a one-man show stall on the night market, which I did 6 to 6 for like 3-4 years. But we need a strong team to do like events like that. Planning, of course, but you need a strong team that shares the same goal. You have a common goal. If you have perception that is different, depart you from each other's objective, at the end of the day, it's really hard to work. So you need to find your team to ensure everyone are working towards the common goal, so you guys can actually bond together. The worst thing is when the team is not communicating, everyone has their own opinions, where your guests are suffering. The food might not be up to standard where you expected, so it's just not the good thing to do. So find your team. Like it doesn't matter if you want to start your own business or you're working in a restaurant with a team of managers, team of servers, leads. We need to ensure we are actually talk it out to ensure everyone's on the same page. If you have conflicts, try to resolve it before we actually go for any further actions.
Next question.
Hello, my name's Alyssa. So my question is, I feel I've been a server for 1 year, but I feel like when you apply to other restaurants, it could be very competitive. So I wanted to know if you had any advice or if there's anything you two look for, like at Eureka or the Fung that stands out
on a resume? Like, is there anything you guys particularly look for, or?
I think metrics is a big thing. If you know what your sales look like at the end of the night, you're like, oh, I sold $1,000 tonight, then put that on your resume. So they know, like, this is how she knows how much she's selling. She's keeping track. She knows how many guests she's serving, how many covers she has. Definitely metrics.
For front of house, I might not be the best person to ask, but I'm also front of house. I'm a server for like 7 years. Something I interviewed, it's similar to what Audrey said. Metrics is important. How much cover you can do, how much section you can run at the same time. Just for reference, for Din Tai Fung, everyone has 4 tables. That's a max we can have. So it might be smaller to every other restaurant you ever work at. However, our sales, it's actually pretty insane. They're averaging 15 to 30 hundreds every shift. And sometimes it can be more. And then the second thing is I will ask them, if I need you to upsell something, how would you approach? Because at the end of the day, you're running a business. We want to ensure you can push out products rather than just take orders. Then, a lot of times, like right now, everyone's transitioning to like computers or AI. They just order on their own. So we don't need in person. So in order for operation to hire servers, they're actually looking for you can upsell items.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the server is the salesperson, and you need to be that person that's asking the guests if they want another drink. Do you want coffee? Do you want dessert? All of that. We talk about that weekly in our sales meetings too. So,
That was very helpful.
of course.
Sorry. I don't know if you have already answered this question, and I'm just re-asking in like a different form. But let's say, similarly to her, like if, for example, I'm a host, but I also have a culinary background, and I'm taking hospitality, of course. How do you go up to your boss and tell them, like, I have a hospitality background, I'm a host, I have a culinary background, but I'm interested in being a manager one day. How do I get there? Like,
exactly like that, yeah. Yeah, no, you're on the right track.
As someone who's been in these level positions, like, how do you approach that? How do you?
If I can help you, if you're an employee of Din Tai Fung, that's something. Couple things I'll let you know. Especially usually depends on front of house or back of house manager you're looking for, but we're open to all. So we don't do front of house, back of the hourly transfer. It's just 2 different departments. But if you're applying for a manager positions, always welcome. It's just same thing we're hiring from external. You're just applying as an external. But a couple things, if you're an employee of mine, then I will actually go through, because we actually have something called competencies program where it helps you develop. So for hourly, we have competencies that you want to fulfill to make sure everything you actually hits the standard already, so you can move on to the hourly leaderships, and then I will show you what manager we're looking for. So at least you have those competencies that you know what to work on and how to achieve the expectations the manager hiring for.
Structure is what Carolina is saying. Study. Just kidding. So I think we're out of time. I want to say thank you to James Fu and Audrey Nieves.